Trump has decided that he wants to go the nuclear option when it comes to a lot of these super woke universities that seem to be churning out elitists and people who hate this country. And I'm here for it. Look, if you're a private university, you want to bring in all the keffiyeh wearing, America hating dorks that you want from around the world, that's fine by me. You just don't get my tax dollars. And I think if you agree with that, hopefully you'll leave a like on this video. I just don't understand why how anyone could have an issue with this. On top of that, he blasted the Fed Chairman Powell, who appears to be holding back on lowering interest rates, which America could use, I think, and has. I feel like Powell is making decisions solely to impede, slow down, hurt the Trump administration. And it's absolutely pathetic. Although I am not an economist, I generally think cutting interest rates are good, but I know it's more complicated than that. There's some great clips to share with you here after a super quick word from this video sponsor, Private Internet Access. Shout out to this video sponsor, Private Internet Access. Look, if you aren't using a VPN yet, you're completely missing out, and Private Internet Access is the one I use on all of my devices. If you've been following the news, you see that censorship, websites, apps are getting shut down in certain countries, all sorts of craziness. Well, a VPN helps you never have to worry about that. Private Internet Access also protects you from the prying eyes of hackers, internet service providers, and others that can view your personal data. Perhaps also just as importantly, Private Internet Access allows you to access region-restricted content from all over the world. Streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and more have different library options based on where you're located, and some shows simply cannot be accessed if you're not in the target location. Happens to me all the time. Many sports events also have regional blackouts. Well, VPNs can be a convenient way to make sure you're getting the content that you're paying for. Private Internet Access also allows you to protect an unlimited amount of devices all at the same time, so your entire household with a single subscription. And I've been working with Private Internet Access so long that I have an absolutely massive discount available to my viewers. Link in the description below. Get Private Internet Access today using my link. Save huge, protect your computers, access all the content that you've been paying for, and ensure that your internet is never censored. So if you don't have VPN, make sure you get yours today using my link in the description. Kristi Noem now threatens to revoke Harvard's availability to enroll foreign students if the university refuses to share information on visa holders who have been engaging in breaking the law in these protests. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't think our university should be importing anybody, to be honest with you. But I suppose that's a different conversation. I suppose I don't mind bringing someone here from the UK or Poland or something like that. And there's just a grouping, a smattering of countries that seem to be filling up our high-end universities. And I'm curious why. Here's a clip of Kristi Noem on the story this morning.
Secretary Noem says Harvard will lose its ability to enroll foreign students if they don't share information on some visa holders. DHS claims some exchange students might have participated in, quote, illegal and violent activities during campus protests. Noem sending a letter to the Ivy League schools saying the following: it is a privilege to have foreign students attend Harvard University, not a guarantee. The United States government understands that Harvard University relies heavily on foreign student funding from over 10,000 foreign students to build and maintain.
Wow. I mean, Trump is exposing Harvard here bigly. Did you have any idea that they had 10,000 foreign students? And again, they receive billions with a B in federal Americans' tax dollars.
Their substantial endowment. At the same time, your institution has created a hostile learning environment for Jewish students due to Harvard's failure to condemn anti-Semitism, end quote.
Okay. Here's one thing. I do not like how our government is using this protected class when they don't really have to. I think you could point to these, aggressive students who are taking over buildings and leading anti-American protests and leave it at that. I don't like that this is all under the specter of anti-Semitism. I just don't care about that. If you want to be, if you're an American citizen and you hate any group of people, you're allowed to express that hate verbally for the most part. That's what the First Amendment's all for. I don't happen to harbor any feelings about any group of people. There are certain religions I'm not a big fan of. But again, if this is the cudgel they use to take out the woke universities, I tend to be okay with that. But I am watching carefully, because when it's first, if I can't criticize what the Israeli government says or does, are they going to start saying that's anti-Semitism? You know what I mean? It's a very slippery slope that our own government has used numerous times.
Harvard's endowment was over $53 billion in fiscal year 2024. Wow. The president asked the IRS to begin the process of revoking the university's tax-exempt status. Harvard is currently exempt from federal income tax and does not have to pay taxes on net earnings.
They clearly run a business, and that business is importing American hate. This is absolutely $54 billion. Why? Why on earth are these universities, first of all, operating tax-free? They are clearly in the business of making money. They have enough money to pay college athletes. Why can't they pay their taxes? And by the way, this via the Megyn Kelly show, which is even more interesting.
Like, to me, Trump has already won, because he got Harvard to say, no way, Jose, we will not stop importing people who hate America and hate Jews. It's like, he already won, right? Like, whatever.
That is true. I am told that there's some secret backroom dealings going on right now where Harvard is in fact bending the knee, but I can't report that officially yet.
Happens. He has exposed them for what they are. These institutions are no longer places that give their students some sort of education. What they do give them is an ideology. And of course, Correct. It was Barack Obama who defunded vocational training in high schools, right? The idea was everyone's going to go to college. And why would he do that? Why would he block millions and millions and millions of young men of finding their way into the middle class by working with their hands for a living? Well,
Good question.
Because the number one predictor for whether you'll be a Democrat is whether you have a college degree,
Right.
So they were funneling people into college. And so your ability to achieve the American dream, thanks to Barack Obama, became contingent on how much anti-American, anti-Semitic, post-structuralist, post-modernist crap you had been exposed to. The whole system.
She's right.
That was built by—
Now, again, I don't care about the anti-Semitism stuff. That's for you, as long as it's within the constraints of the First Amendment, I don't care. But if you're importing large scales of people that all have similar ideologies, that all hate the same groups of people, I think that's worth taking a look at.
By Obama, the system in which you only get access to the American dream if you walk the gauntlet of these anti-American institutions, which are
Correct.
Nothing more than status conferring operations in which elites confer status and a lot of wealth on each other. That whole system is crumbling down. I don't want Harvard to reform. I want us to reform. I
Yes.
want us to stop seeing a Harvard degree as something to be proud of. I want us to stop worshiping at the altar of these institutions that hate us.
Big agree. And now the IRS decision on Harvard's tax-exempt status is expected very soon amid concern over Trump's interference. This is going to be very bad if they lose their tax-exempt status. And they should. They are in the business of profiteering, of creating people that are, radicalizing them. I 100% see the IRS is making plans to rescind Harvard University's tax-exempt status, with a final decision expected soon, according to multiple reports. Some IRS officials have told colleagues that Treasury Department asked the agency on Wednesday to consider revoking Harvard's tax exemption. New York Times reported. Linda McMahon, the education secretary, said she doesn't know whether Harvard will lose tax-exempt status, but argued it's certainly worth looking into. This after Tuesday, where Donald Trump publicly called for Harvard to lose its tax-exempt status, hours after his administration announced a $2 billion freeze in federal funds to Harvard. Perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and Terry-inspired supporting sickness, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Remember, tax-exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest. I agree. I also agree there's a bunch of these mega churches that probably shouldn't have tax-exempt status either. I don't know if Trump will have the stones to look into that. Look, you're some small-town church serving your community. Sure. You're Joel Osteen or any one of these other churches that are profiting hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and you own a public jet or private jet. I question whether or not you should be having tax exempt status, or if certain amounts of your purchases should be tax exempt. According to the Times, federal law bars the president from either directly or indirectly requesting the IRS to investigate or audit specific targets. The IRS has previously revoked tax exemptions for organizations for political or commercial activities, but federal law gives nonprofits the right to appeal the agency's decision in court. That's fine. Let them appeal it. And he, of course, twists the knife on this by saying merit hiring. My favorite part of the Trump administration's letter to Harvard is that the demand that all existing and prospective faculty should be reviewed for plagiarism, twisting the knife. Now, there's no law that probably supports that. However, we know that Harvard and many of its professors have been under the specter of, faking their dissertations and faking this and stealing that. I believe the previous Harvard president was removed under, the hilarity of plagiarism. It's wild to me. Meanwhile, the media continues to try and sow panic. Trump blasts Fed Chair Powell, saying his termination cannot come fast enough. Donald Trump is trying to pressure Jerome Powell to cut rates. And Jerome Powell doesn't like Donald Trump, and he doesn't want to do that. Now, that isn't me saying, two things can be true at the same time. Maybe it's not good or smart to cut rates. Maybe it's only a temporary fix, and the correct, macroeconomic decision is to keep rates where they are. I don't know that answer. But what I do know is Jerome Powell doesn't like Trump, and he's absolutely pressuring him to try and bring about a rate cut, which would probably spur a nice bit of spending in the market. The stock market is basically the biggest thing that the mainstream media is holding against Donald Trump, and it's hard for him to argue against all this red every single day. Powell said on Wednesday, an economic event in Chicago, that the Trump administration has brought very fundamental policy changes, including sweeping tariffs that are significantly larger than anticipated. He said such changes are like anything seen in modern history, putting the Fed in uncharted waters on a path to confront challenge that it hasn't seen in decades. But Powell's comments were not unlike those of other Fed officials in recent weeks. Most have said Trump's tariffs are likely to push up inflation and unemployment. Powell has carried out the Fed's monetary policy by making decisions that are dependent on economic data in striving for central banks. Now, we know when the Fed likes the president, they're happy to cut rates like they did for Joe Biden right before the election. Again, his tariffs are likely to cause more unemployment and maybe higher inflation if you believe that they're going to be there long term. But I just don't believe that. I believe that they're going to, try to get this stuff resolved pretty quick. I don't see China and America staying in these tariffs for longer than a month. Obviously, I could be wrong. And finally, Trump's greatest trick ever, I want to give him a shout out for here at the end. He convinced Democrats to fly to prisons around the world, specifically one, to stump for a literal gang member. He has tricked the entire Democrat Party with his Maryland man psyop, where they've been saying that this man's been wrongfully deported, and he was just a good boy who didn't do nothing wrong. Well, it turns out his wife has a protection order against him, and there are numerous court documents they released last night proving incontrovertibly, what can I talk? Proving without a shadow of a doubt that he absolutely was taking part in gang activities, and he should have been deported. Absolute masterstroke by him. Democrats look foolish again. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.